Can I just start this off by saying how amazing it is that we finally have a film in this franchise that does not have some sort of cookie cutter title. Outside of the Alien versus Predator films, we've had Predator, Predator 2, Predators, and The Predator. So it's nice to finally have one that, takes a pretty simplistic approach, but also works within the Predator franchise and has a different title. I love it. I love it. Let's get into this review. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video. And in today's video, we're going to be talking about the new film that just dropped on Hulu or on Disney Plus, depending on where you live, and that is Prey. Prey is directed by Dan Trachtenberg, who also wrote this film alongside Patrick Eisen, and this film takes us back 300 years before the events of the original Predator film and focuses on a Comanche tribe of Native Americans. It stars people like Amber Midthunder, Dakota Beavers, and Dane DiLiegro, and has beautiful cinematography from Jeff Cutter. Wow, I'm not going to waste any time, guys. I really thoroughly enjoyed this film. When I heard that they were going to be making a prequel to the Predator franchise and that it was going to be going straight to streaming, I was like, all right, we'll see where this goes, because unfortunately this franchise, even though I have a very special place in my heart for it, it always hasn't been the best. I love the original Predator film. Undoubtedly, it did some of the coolest things in cinema at the time, introducing one of the most iconic horror monsters or sci-fi monsters, movie monsters of all time, also introducing us to really iconic lines and big moments of action. It's a big machismo heavy, over-the-top action movie that utilizes great practical effects as well as a great use of actual locations, and it's just a good, fun action film of its time. With that said, though, the sequel is all right. It's not the greatest. It's Predator in New York, essentially. Then Predators is a film that I feel gets a lot of crap, but I've always thoroughly enjoyed. And then The Predator I have covered here on the channel, and I was not a huge fan of it. The only things I have covered in this series so far on the channel are the original Predator film as well as The Predator. And I am a big fan of the original film and not so much of The Predator. And I do like the first Alien versus Predator for the most part. And so, yeah, going into this, since it has been a bit of a rocky road with this series, you never really know what to expect, but I'm happy to say I loved this movie. And if I'm completely honest, I don't know 100% that I feel this way just yet. I'm gonna let it kind of sit with me before I make this decision, but I was arguably thinking to myself that this may be my favorite Predator movie in the franchise. Now, with that said, I do love the original film a ton. I mean, it's the one that started this all, and it's a simplistic, straightforward movie about a group of mercenaries that go on a mission and end up getting caught in this war between this creatures that's hunting them in the middle of nature. And I think that's one of my favorite parts about that film and this film, is that both films have the setting of nature as it's man versus alien. And I really enjoy the fact that in this film we take it back to a time where there is not a bunch of machine guns and explosives and a bunch of machismo heavy men that have years of military or mercenary experience, but we're actually focusing on a girl in this film played by Amber Midthunder, and I thought that she did a fantastic job here. The whole basic premise at the very beginning is we're focusing on her as she's having a lot of discussions with her brother about the fact that she really wants to prove herself as a hunter to her tribe. And a lot of people want to just look at her as somebody who's going to stay behind, cook the meals, and kind of fit in with the rest of the women in this tribe. But our main character here, Naru, she wants to be something more. She wants to prove herself as a hunter, and so the movie sets up this idea that she wants to be able to achieve this ritualistic thing that they do in their tribe, where they take on something that's hunting them, whether it be some sort of animal or whatever the case may be. And here, of course, she ends up getting more than she bargained for, with a predator landing near their tribe and starting to kill a bunch of creatures. And the first portion of the film is her just going out trying to seek out this hunt, and she's trying to look for other creatures and other things that she can take on. And there is a chance that kind of pokes its head out at some point for her to be able to, take the title that she wants and gain the respect, but things don't necessarily go as planned. But as she starts to uncover things throughout the course of the film, she realizes that there's something else out here in the woods. She doesn't know exactly what it is, but it's a big threat and nobody else necessarily wants to believe her. So the rest of the movie, she goes out on this hunt to find this creature that she believes is out there and that she does eventually stumble upon, which we as the audience know is the predator. And now we have this movie where you take away guns. There are guns that do appear at some point in the movie, and I won't get too deep into spoilers into the story of what's going on, but this is way early into guns, so we definitely don't have a lot of the over-the-top weapons of mass destruction that we have in movies today, and even like the original Predator film. I think of certain scenes when they're just blowing up all those trees because one guy saw the predator. Yeah, that's just a movie filled with big over-the-top weapons and explosives. And this film takes the basic premise of an individual or a couple of individuals who are out there in the woods with this predator and simplifies it even more, really honing in on our main character here, who really wants to, protect her family, protect her tribe, but also really gain respect from her tribe and be a hunter. She wants to fight. She wants to be out there doing all of this. So I really enjoyed the journey and taking that general gist of what the first film was and simplifying it even more and honing in on the story, because what I thought this movie was able to do so well is have big over-the-top fun stakes, but also feel really grounded and have a really nice tight scale when it comes to the story. It never goes too big, it never goes for over-the-top spectacle, even though this film does have a lot of really over-the-top awesome action sequences and utilizes a great sense of a lot of what you see in modern day action movies that's really based on choreography and seeing everything happen on screen without a whole lot of cuts. And that's something I really thoroughly enjoyed about this film. It felt focused and knew what it was. It was action-packed, it was energetic, but it also felt, scaled down, but also scaled up when it had to be without feeling over bloated. I really do hope that makes sense. Overall, I thoroughly enjoyed this film. I enjoyed the look, the feel, the vibe. I enjoyed the predator kills here as well. There's a lot of really creative kills over the course of the film. This isn't a film that only goes for gory kills, but also for creative kills, which definitely led to me having a whole lot of internal oh shit moments while watching it. And I was honestly just locked in. If I had to think of any real negatives about this movie that I wasn't crazy about, there were a couple of moments where it felt like the pacing was really energetic, and then there were some abrupt moments where it kind of slowed down. But what I will say is, despite feeling that way, I found that the film overall did a good job of utilizing those slower moments to really expand upon our characters and use that time to character develop. And then on top of that, you also have the predator itself. And there is an element, if you've seen these films before, if you're well versed in this franchise, you've seen a lot of these films multiple times, there is an element of kind of chalking over some familiar territory with this movie. There is an element of feeling like, okay, we've been there, we've done that, we know what the Predator does, we know what the Predator is all about. But as a movie that may be an introduction to the series for many, I think it did a really good job of telling us what we already know about the Predator if you're already familiar with this franchise, but keeping it engaging and interesting through the eyes of Naru, our main character. And I really enjoyed kind of seeing her discover things. And on top of that, seeing the Predator in this iteration do the things that we know, specifically the headhunting. I really enjoyed some of the expansion upon the lore about exactly how they do that, because if you're familiar with predators, you know that they collect the skulls of the various kills that they do accumulate, and so the things that they hunt down, they want to keep those skulls, and this movie touches on that in very subtle ways, shows us that they're doing that, and also shows us a little bit more to expand upon that lore that we've seen in previous films. Yeah, as you can tell, I really enjoyed this film. I found it to be a good action film. I really enjoyed also that this is a film that uses practical locations. Majority of this seemed to be filmed on location. I'm sure there were a couple of moments that, were using green screen or blue screen, but for the most part, they use practical locations, and the setting feels real, it looks tangible, and the Predator itself, outside of a couple of moments where the Predator was maybe enhanced by CG or was still using its cloaking, so it was fully CG, most of the time that you actually see the Predator on screen, he is a practical individual in a suit, and the suit looks awesome. And that's part of what I really enjoyed about this film. It took what the original film did, taking just a set of characters into a very excluded area and focusing it on man versus nature in a way, this hunter versus the hunter hunter kind of thing, and just simplified it even more, honing in on just a couple less characters, and also took it to a time, again, like I was mentioning earlier, because I lost my train of thought as I usually do, to a time where we don't have a whole lot of mass destructive weapons. And that's something that I really enjoyed about this film, is that as you're watching it, you know, our main character is using a bow and arrow and a little axe and, you know, a spear and things like that. So she has to kind of deal with things in a very intelligent way. There's a lot of ingenuity to the way that she has to get in and out of situations, which does harken back to that original film, especially in the third act of that original film. But what I really enjoyed about this film is that because of the limitations in terms of the weapons and things like that, our main character really had to use everything she had to fight the Predator, and had to use the various weapons that she did have and did understand how to use in a very creative manner to take the Predator down. So I think, you know, taking it back to the past where there's limitations in terms of the weapons and various tools that can be used to fight the Predators, I think that just really heightened the attention and the excitement of these moments. You know, they were able to bring down the overall scale and didn't really make the whole story feel bloated, but really allowed it to be bigger on the inside in a lot of ways. You know, there are certain films in this franchise that have gone for spectacle, have gone for bigger, over the top, gun blasting action, and sometimes are the most hollow in the franchise or the most forgettable, whereas this one for me felt memorable and like something I definitely want to revisit. I'm really bummed. The biggest thing I'm bummed about, really honestly, is the fact that we didn't get to see this movie in theaters. I wish this movie had been theatrically released, but I am thrilled that this movie even exists. And if you are a fan of the Predator franchise and you feel like, listen, I'm just tired of being let down by this series, check this out. It's on Hulu if you live in the States or wherever else Hulu is available. And for the places that Hulu is not available, I know it's on Disney Plus. So definitely check it out. Highly recommend it. Prey, brand new film that is a prequel to the Predator series. And what I think is really great about this as well is that it doesn't really connect to anything else. So if you've never seen a Predator movie, this could be your introduction to the series and you wouldn't be lost in any way, shape, or form. So a big thanks to you guys for watching. Hit that like button, comment your thoughts, subscribe for more videos, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.